Let's talk about painting our candy corn cats. So I have already drawn my cat with pencil, and then I've traced it with Sharpie, and then I went over all of my lines with an eraser to make it look nicer so that you can't see any of that pencil showing. So now I'm ready to color. We're going to be using watercolor pencils. A lot of times you can tell they're watercolor pencils because they have a paintbrush picture on the side of them. They also say watercolor. But if you're ever confused if a colored pencil you have is a watercolor pencil or a regular one, check for the word watercolor and a picture of a paintbrush. So we're mostly going to be using orange and yellow to color our candy corn pumpkins, but you might have a few other details on our candy corn cats, not pumpkins. You might have a few other details on your cat that you want colored a different color. So you might want the color of the nose or the inside of the ears or maybe the stripes or something it's holding. Those can be a different color, but the body of your cat needs to be white at the top, orange in the middle, and yellow at the bottom. It seems kind of backwards, but that's how a candy corn actually is. So I have a candy corn cat that I've already started coloring. And you can see I've colored yellow at the bottom. I've added some purple and pink details. Here I mixed a few colors. You can mix watercolor pencils just like you can paint. So I colored this whole thing with a pink color, and then I added some purple at the bottom to make it look darker where the shadow is. Now you can see there's still some white showing, and so that might not normally look like nice pencil coloring, but that's okay for watercolor pencils because we're going to turn these into paint in just a moment. So I wanted to show you, I have this little section here that I still need to color orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color this section orange, but I'm also going to overlap some of my orange on top of my yellow. That way when I start painting, those two colors will mix. I want to keep this top part as clean as I can because I want that to be white, just like a candy corn. So now that my cat is colored, I am ready to paint. I have some water here, and you'll also want a smaller paintbrush so you can do those tiny details. So I put my water up here, get my brush wet, wipe it on the side. Remember, don't tap because that sprays water all over. And I'm just going to start off, I'll start off painting this ear. So I'm just lightly going to go over that with water, and you can see if I zoom in how it starts to turn into paint. Because I put more here, there should be a little bit of a shadow, and I'll just paint the rest of that ear. Now your brush isn't clean. You do have pink paint now on your brush, so it's a good idea to paint the other things that are that color. So you really don't need very much water. Just a little bit of water is enough to activate that pencil and turn it into paint. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, and I'm going to finish those things that are pink. And I'm just really carefully going slowly, staying inside my lines, kind of like a coloring book, staying inside those lines that you colored. I'm going to paint this, just need a little bit more water on here. And I'm going to start painting this yarn ball. Start off here with the pink. And then as I get to the bottom, the pink and that purple that I've colored on top of each other down at the bottom will start mixing, and it will create that darker color. So now I've painted all the pink areas. Oops, I need to paint this little strand of yarn here. So I'm going to clean my brush, wipe it off, and I'm going to paint those purple eyes. And so you're just going to really go slowly over the entire thing, adding water to those sections. Now the thing about watercolors, if you paint something wet next to something wet, those two colors will mix together. So I want to let this part of my yarn ball dry before I start painting the yellow, because I know that then my yellow and my pink are going to mix together, and I don't want that. So I'm going to start over here where I know that my paper is dry. And I'm just going to start painting the orange area. And then I'm going to paint a little bit of this area that is yellow and orange mixing together. And before I go to paint this yellow area, I'm going to clean my brush again because it does have some of that orange paint on it. And now I have a nice clean brush. And you'll notice that this paint is filling in all those white spaces that were left when I colored. That's the nice thing about watercolor pencils, is you can color a little bit more quickly, but then it still turns out really nicely once you start to paint. So I'm going to paint these areas. And then I'll probably take a little bit of a break because I know that this is still wet. And so I'll clean my brush and I will move to the orange up here. And I'm going to be very careful. Oops, I just got in my pink. So be careful what you're doing. Be very careful not to get into that white area that I want to leave white, just like the top of a candy corn. So I will just keep on painting. That is how you turn your candy corn cat outline or contour drawing. Contour is just another word for outline. That's how you turn that contour drawing into a watercolor painting using watercolor pencils.